This is Hollywood sequel speak 101 right here. The last key is only the insinuation that this is going to be the last movie. It's the last movie unless this movie makes money, in which case the last key is not going to be the last movie. If this movie makes money, there will be a fifth Insidious movie called The Final Key or The Final Door or something. And so on and so forth until they reboot it. That's your language lesson for the day. Insidious The Last Key. So Insidious The Last Key is the fourth Insidious movie, but it's an Insidious movie that takes place in 2010. It stars Lynn Shay as Elise Rayner, a paranormal investigator from the Insidious movies. And now there's a new demon she has to take down because it's a demon that was in the house she grew up in. She's the only one who can do it. Now we have a new Insidious movie. Alright, so this movie is not without merit. There are things in this movie I actually enjoyed. The Insidious movies in general I enjoyed because they were horror movies that used horror movie tactics, but they also concentrated on the story of the family. They merged the two very well to become what I feel is a solid horror movie trilogy. And Insidious The Last Key does bring some of that element to it, but I feel like it was made by someone who saw what the Insidious movies were, but didn't quite know how to apply it to a new one. The family and story elements are there, but it's almost like the horror movie elements took a backseat to that. You can't do that in a horror movie. It's a horror movie. If you're gonna have the family story element, you gotta have both merge well. This movie did drag on for the first half of it, where you're wondering if anything you're seeing is relevant, but in the second half, that stuff does come full circle, does wrap into being relevant. Not gonna give it a full pass because for half this movie I felt like I was just kind of wasting my time. I felt like this movie simply existed to tell us where her two crewmates got their shirts and ties from. There are a few of those winks and nods to the camera like, ha! Because we're referencing what you've already seen. I didn't need to see it, but it's what makes movies like this fun. But movies like this start running into problems when you start to feel like that's the only reason this movie exists. This movie starts getting bogged down when I start thinking about it, and I cannot think of a thing in this movie that actually did scare me. Anytime I jumped, it was from, yes, a jump scare. They're in here, there are just a few of them. Nothing in this movie really built the tension in a way I felt a good horror movie should. Yeah, there are scenes where she's crawling through the dark. Yeah, there are scenes where there's a crickety old-ass weird basement. But I was never looking in the corners going, oh my god, something could be there. You know where the thing's going to be, and you know that because you saw it in the trailer. Stupid trailers. I do give props to a couple of the techniques they used in this movie. A couple of techniques involving flashlights I thought were actually really well used. There's a segment where someone has the big paranormal boom mic, so all the audio you hear is from the paranormal boom mic. You're listening to all the ambient hiss in the background, listening for that white noise. It made it feel like you were there with the paranormal investigators. I thought they used good tactics in this movie, but it never paid off. It's like it was teed up perfectly and no one took the shot. Nothing scary came of it. I just walk away going, those are some neat techniques they used. I hope someone uses those interesting techniques in a horror movie and uses them for horror purposes. That'd be fun. Guys, in the end, Insidious The Last Key was not as good as any of the movies in the Insidious trilogy. Has a couple of neat techniques they use. They do use the family element that the Insidious movies also use to drive the story, but they didn't merge horror movie and story about a family as well as the Insidious movies before it did. This whole scenario is very comparable to the God of War games. You have the God of War trilogy. We're gonna omit the PSP games, just stick on the trilogy. The trilogy is done, and then they come out with God of War Ascension. You're like, well, do I need it? Not really. And if you never play it, you're still fine. You have your God of War trilogy story. That's how this whole Insidious thing is played out. You have your Insidious trilogy, you have the last key. Do you need the last key? No, the trilogy is fine enough. If you're an Insidious super fan, you might find some things in the last key more enjoyable, but if you're not an Insidious super fan, you're not gonna look at the last key and be like, oh, what have I been missing? In the end, I'm going to press on with 2018, and I'm probably not going to look back at Insidious The Last Key for anything. So I will say I'm probably not going to remember Insidious The Last Key in T-1 day. Yep, already forgot. But it is a horror movie that came out in January that's not complete shit. That's something. Alright guys, so Insidious The Last Key, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.